Hey there, Christophe from the French Herbal. I don't know if you've seen those spots of vibrant blue color in wheat fields. That's what we call cornflowers, a medicinal plant that is so simple, so unassuming, and yet very stunning, right? It's hard to believe that it's disappearing from our countryside. It was once a common sight in farmland across Europe and North America, and now, well, it became a rare appearance in modern fields pushed out by pesticides and industrial farming. But here's the good news, it's making a quiet comeback and you can help bring it back, whether, in your garden or back in your tea blend. Why should you care? Well, because the cornflower isn't just pretty, it's also very useful. For centuries, herbalists have turned to its deep blue petals to calm tired eyes and ease inflammation, and also add a pop of color to tea blends. And let's be honest, in a world of overcomplicated, wellness trends and super complicated formulations and mixes in herbal capsules, well, there's something refreshing about a plant that does just a few things but does them well. So you guessed it, in this episode, it's my pleasure to present a traditional medicinal plant we like very much here in France, cornflower. But before we start, a quick but important reminder, I am not a doctor, pharmacist, or a licensed healthcare professional. The information shared in this episode is for educational purpose only, not intended to diagnose, treat, or cure any condition or replace professional medical advice. So, cornflower is an annual plant. Its Latin name is Centaurea cyanus, and it belongs to the Asteraceae family, very large family that contains many medicinal plants. It's a type of Centaurea. The flowers look like its perennial cousin, Centaurea montana. You won't find it growing just anywhere, and it's not as urban as dandelion or shepherd's purse, because this is a true field dweller, right? Hence its name. In the past, it often grew as a weed in cornfields, and here corn is to be taken in the broader sense of grains, right? So it could be in fields of wheat, barley, rye, oats, etc. The cornflower loves cultivated fields. So you'd think, given how much farmland there is today, that it would grow pretty much everywhere. But unfortunately, the opposite is true because it's highly sensitive to pesticide and therefore it's disappearing fast. Some regions are concerned about its decline, and maybe this is the perfect excuse to plant some in your garden. And if you gather them in the wild, always pick from areas where they grow abundantly and only take a small amount. And never near conventional grain fields, right? Only organic ones. In herbalism, the part of the plant we use is the beautiful blue flower. When properly harvested and dried, it will retain its deep blue color for many months. So in terms of harvesting and drying, pick the flowers when they're fully open, usually in summer. You dry them the traditional way. So either you hang small bouquets upside down if you keep the stems, or if you don't keep the stems, like me, just lay the flowers flat on a mesh screen. And when they're dry, you store them in craft paper bags in a cool, dark, and dry area. Herbal stores in France often use cornflowers to make their herbal tea blends more pretty and appealing to the eye. And here's a fun fact. They're part of the original Lady Grey tea recipe, although modern versions may vary. You might know Earl Grey, which is black tea flavored with bergamot. Lady Grey is similar, but it includes more citrus notes and it is a little milder in bergamot, and it should have a few cornflower petals in it. In terms of constituents, the flower contains polysaccharides, and they appear to have anti-inflammatory properties, flavonoids, which provide antioxidant and tissue protective properties. It's got quercetin, which may explain its anti-allergy properties, tannins, helping to tighten up inflamed tissues, more on this in a moment. sesquiterpene lactones, which is typical of the Asteraceae family, giving the flower a slightly bitter taste, anthocyanosides, which are the pigments, blue pigments responsible for the beautiful blue color, and again, very anti-inflammatory and protective to the tissues. So this adds up to a very promising profile: antioxidant, tissue protective, anti-allergy, and anti-inflammatory. In terms of uses, historically in France, cornflower has been used as a diuretic for cystitis, for joint inflammation, as a blood purifier, what we call a depurative plant over here. However, there is one set of indications that seem to bubble up over all the other ones. According to French practice, it's especially useful for one organ in particular, the eye. In my experience, for internal use, like if you drink the tea of the flowers, it's a bit mild. In other words, it's not a very active plant, but it comes as a nice complement to other plants in the blend. However, for external application, it's highly effective, which brings us to its French traditional use as an eyeglass breaker. Although it will not give you the vision you had when you were in your 20s, but it's fantastic for caring for your eyes. You can use it to relieve tired, puffy, irritated eyes, very common after long screen time or exposure to pollution if you live in a big city, for instance. Its astringent properties will help to tone the eye mucous membrane and also the surrounding skin and tissues, the eyelids and the region under the eyes. A quick pause to let you know that you can grab my free ebook on preparing herbal teas for the 4 seasons. It's full of simple recipes and blends you can make with herbs you can buy or even grow almost anywhere. The link is right below this episode. I hope you enjoy it. And here's how to use it. You make a small tea of the whole flowers, and don't make too much because then it will be wasted. Just brew what you need, a small quantity. Dr. Valnet, one of our renowned French herbal docs of the past, suggests 2 teaspoons of the dried flower for a cup of 150 milliliters of water. You simmer, covered for about 5 minutes. So this is technically a decoction, not an infusion. Then you strain well. You soak a cotton pad in the liquid and you apply it to the closed eyelids while relaxing for a few minutes. Cornflower can also help with allergic reactions like red, watery, itchy eyes. And here, for best results, you can apply directly into the eye, but there are a few precautions to take. So here is how to prepare an eye wash or an eye bath. First, you prepare the decoction, as I just explained, and then you filter it thoroughly. This is important because any particles left in the brew will irritate your eyes, right? So you can use a clean piece of cloth to do that, to do the filtering. And then you'll have to turn the liquid into a saline solution, right, to match the eye's natural salt balance. So add 9 grams of salt per liter of the tea, or 0.9 gram of salt per 100 milliliter of the tea. And use a precision scale to do that. You dilute the salt, and then you can use a dropper to apply the cold salted infusion, just a few drops into the eye. Repeat several times a day if necessary, and you can store it in the fridge for up to 48 hours maximum. After that period, you need to make another batch. Here's a great combo. Mix it with plantain, any type of plantago will do, and eyebright, Euphrasia officinalis, 1/3 of each in your preparation. But really, if you only have cornflowers, that will be just fine. Dr. Valnet recommends cornflower for conjunctivitis, but hygiene here is super critical because it's highly contagious. That said, you can also use the dropper method to relieve the eyes. And again, good combinations with plantain, eyebright, and Roman chamomile here. If you don't have access to the flowers, or if you don't want to prepare a decoction, hydrosols are also a good option here. However, my preference always goes to the whole plant as an infusion or decoction. You know, it's the best way to learn self-sufficiency instead of always relying on processed products. And that is all I had for cornflowers. Quite simple, so beautiful, and it brings much relief for the tired and inflamed eyes. Thanks for being here. I will see you very soon for the next episode of The French Herbal.